Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Hilaal Live. Thanks for watching us on Channel 347. We're discussing voter education, and I've asked Ighsaan Higgins to join me back again. Ighsaan, jazakallah so much for being in studio.
And assalamu alaikum to the listeners that just joined us.
Jazakallah so much. And then also from the PMC, I've had him in studio before. We've asked him to come back and also be part of the discussion. Mr. Marius Fransman, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Rickman. Good evening, viewers.
Thanks so much for taking the time to come and chat to us. It's a couple of days away. We all know the previous voter turnout wasn't a good one. It was one of the worst we've ever had in our country's democracy. PMC, and I would imagine during this time as well, has been campaigning, but more importantly, educating various communities on what to do on the 29th, and more importantly, where to place your X. I would imagine it's for PMC, but in general, how to go through the ballot papers. Is that something you guys have been doing?
Yes, it's obviously a very difficult process this time around because there were so many uncertainties.
Mm-hmm.
Is people standing? Is it not standing? Is the ballot going to be printed? The constitutional court cases, the electoral court cases. But here we are.
Mm-hmm.
And we now know that there's 3 ballots.
Mm-hmm.
For the first time, it was normally 2 ballots.
Correct.
And we are saying to our canvassers, to our ground forces, it's important to engage people, not only about where to put the cross, but actually the reasons behind it. So I think we've lost a moment by the IEC in terms of a period of explaining the voter education. In '94, we had voter education, a very big program of voter education. The PMC will be advocating post this election for an aggressive, funded process by the IEC to actually re-educate our people on the value of the vote and also, for example, the process on how to vote. Because there's a lot of, I think, illiteracy through that process.
I agree. So you were instrumental in that project that the IEC initiated many years ago in terms of voter education. It seems to have dropped over the years with regards to our communities just, not getting to the polls.
Yeah, I think in 1994 and 1996, 94 being the national and the provincial elections, and of course 96 being the local elections, there was an excitement in the air. People never vote. Black people never voted in this country at that point in time. So they obviously were excited. And of course, the IEC and various international agencies pumped a lot of money into voter education at that point in time. So of course, there was a lot of agencies. There was Project Vote, there was Matla Trust, there was IDASA, various other entities. But what happened after the 94 and 96 elections, it kind of dissipated. And of course, now it was up to the IEC. And of course, government probably didn't provide enough budgets for voter education. And now, at this point in time, we have a very complicated system, as Marius just said now. And this complicated system needed to be explained. So, of course, political parties go and they do the door-to-doors and they do the online campaigns and the platforms such as Facebook and TikTok and all that. But the one thing that I think, and I'm hoping they did in that process, not just to actually give people a lowdown on what the manifesto says and what they promise, but also in the door-to-door process is to tell people what to expect on on the election day. That they will have to, Marius can maybe explain the 3 ballot system, but also they needed to have a certain ID document with them, whether it is the green barcoded one or the card one. And if they don't have that, they must go now already to Home Affairs to go get the temporary ID.
Absolutely. Marius, maybe the 3, sister sheet system that the vote system that needs to happen on the 29th. Could you unpack that for us a little bit?
So what happened the last couple of years, there was a constitutional court challenge on independent candidates, that individuals can stand and directly be elected to parliament. So the last 12 months, the IC was confronted with how to manage that particular process.
Okay.
And what has happened now is you've got the national parliament, which has 400 seats, and 200 of those 400 seats are then been allocated based on directly elected positions on the obviously parliamentary list, but on the political list in the context of the first ballot.
Okay.
The second ballot is it's a new ballot. It's the regional to national ballot.
I see.
So, for example, this is now not the provincial parliament ballot, or this is now Western Cape and all other provinces. There will be another list for your party or for an individual. And I'll not mention the names of individuals that stands, otherwise I'm promoting them here. So then you've got individuals that could apply, and they had to register, I think, 1,000 signatures as individuals
Gotcha.
to actually get onto the ballot. The new formations like ours were suddenly given from 1,000 to 15,000 to be on the ballot.
Yeah.
I think it was an exclusion. It was a strategy to exclude newer formations, and it was and the people that would benefit from that was only those in parliament already. So there were a particular agenda behind that. Fortunately, we've pushed through and quite a few others, and we're on that list. So we would then, so the second ballot would be a regional to national ballot.
Okay.
And then the last ballot would be a provincial parliament ballot. So some parties would be on every province registered, and some like us in the Western Cape and the Northern Cape and national. So that's the way it works.
Yeah. The smaller parties, as you mentioned as well, Ighsaan, are we looking at holding an post-elections or coalitions? Are we looking at partnering up with other parties out there?
I just want to get in there. With regard to the smaller parties, I think because Marius has such a lot of experience in government, I mean, you've been a deputy minister, you've been on various portfolio committees. Is there, maybe one can maybe unpack whether there is a role for smaller parties in the confines of a huge space like Parliament with three dominant parties?
It's very important. Ighsaan, I've been 15 years out of 18 years in Parliament. I would have been a political executive officer, so I would have been the provincial minister in one way or the other, and then deputy national minister. And my reading is the only reason why I've reactivated, the only reason, is because I see the next 5 years of new things taking place in our country, where and it's not a strange trend, it's a global trend. So you're going to go into Germany, you're going to find coalitions. You're going to go into the Nordics, you see similar stuff, and there's an opportunity, I believe, for new formations that's more issue-based, community-orientated, to be at the main table of politics. And hence, there is a major opportunity. If you asked me that question 10 years ago, I would have said there's no space for new or small
because
parties.
You were in the big formation.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, it was the ANC, it was the DA, and there was nothing, even if it wasn't there.
Why bother?
However, the last 5 years, as the democracy is maturing, voters are starting to realize, but I've got an issue called fishing, and my focus is going to be fishing, and I'm going to vote for a party that focuses on that as an example, or informal traders, or backyarders, or this or that. So it's going to be more issue-based, and I think there's going to be a big voice on that in the next 5 years in South Africa. I'm also one, and I must say that one that believe that coalition's got a bad name the last year and a half. It is going to mature. Over the next 5 years, it is going to definitely mature. PMC believes that if you are a party with 5% or 2% or 8%, you mustn't basically want them to force down being the mayor or the speaker or the premier or the president. So I've got also a different approach to governance, because if you've got a governance model where the small parties or the less percentage parties, they would want to, for example, have bigger say. And I think we must be cautious for that type of thing.
Yeah. A lot to look out for, and I think a lot to be aware of coming to the polls on the 29th.
Yeah, I think what Marius is saying is correct. You have your there's a space for smaller parties, and those smaller parties will bring major issues to the fore. I mean, jobs, unemployment, as he said, fishing. Various issues will have to come to the fore. The bigger parties may not be focusing on it, but you have your smaller parties, whether you have 1 seat or 2 seats, you'll have an opportunity to make that relevant noise. And I think that's very important, because now the ordinary person in the street, their voices are getting heard. So it's not just big parties, doing their big stuff. It's the smaller parties bringing those smaller issues to the fore.
Yeah. What should our audience watching this interview be made aware of that PMC stands for?
PMC, family, community and opportunity. Our focus is to bring the ordinary person at the main table of politics, and we've got a very strong geopolitical agenda. So we also want to tell the audience that we are unapologetically having a view that the genocide taking shape against our people in Palestine and those young children and women, we are dead against that. We're also going to call for a review of the Bretton Woods institutions. The UN was supposed to protect the poor from the strong, and we are seeing something else. And the last thing is the PMC is reassessing the thought of, is a two-state solution still possible, or must we actually go back to what the original discussion were? So there are very deep issues that we are engaged on, and we are asking people to align, to reflect. And the one thing on back to coalitions, Ighsaan, I believe that the newer formations must form a grand coalition and engage the bigger ones on the terms of a broad front, not the moonshot pact, because I'm against that, but a broad front of a grand coalition that is having certain fundamental issues, and that's what we're going to put forward over the next few weeks.
Awesome. Gentlemen, thanks so much. That's all we have time for. Mr. Marius, Fransman, all the very best with the next couple of days. I'm sure you're going to need it. Ighsaan, thanks for coming into studio and shedding a light on our voter education as well. That's how we end Hilaal Live for today. We're back tomorrow between 5 and 7. Do join us on Channel 347 from Sohail Barnes and myself, Luqman Shadrack, in the Cape Town studios. Have a great evening. Assalamu alaikum.